Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Real Quick with Mike Swick podcast. Breakdown of UFC 249. Yes, it is happening. I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts and my picks on the main card and the main prelims. There'll be timestamps below in the descriptions on YouTube if you want to skip around. So let's get started. All right, first up, we have Ronaldo Jacare Souza versus Uriah Hall. I think this is a classic striker versus grappler match. Obviously, Uriah is very dominant on the feet. He's got great strikes. He moves well. Jacare is a fourth-degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. I guess the big factors of this fight is Jacare. What seems like the big factors are that Jacare is 40 years old. He's coming off 2 losses. One to Jan Blachowicz, which, I mean, that's, he's on a tear right now. And Uriah Hall's coming off 2 wins. So the momentum, obviously is in Uriah's favor. And then age as well. I just don't think age is going to have a factor in this fight, considering Jacare's style. Jacare is a grappler, again, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and old man strength comes into play a lot when you're grappling. It's often not a fast style. It's a controlling style. So strength, control, and experience, all that comes with being 40 years old as a fourth-degree black belt, is an advantage, I think, in this particular type of fight, as long as the conditioning is there, as long as he has good conditioning and he had a good fight camp. He said he had a good fight camp. He said he also did a lot of strength training with his wife. He actually said that his wife is a strength, I don't know if she's a strength trainer or she trains a lot at home with strength and conditioning equipment like CrossFit stuff. But he said he spent a lot of time at home training with her and he got really strong. So I think his conditioning should be okay. He's always been decent mentally, and you can't question his grappling. Uriah Hall, explosive striker. Things can happen out of nowhere. I think that's what's going to happen for Uriah to win this fight. He's going to have to land something big, keep the distance. And that's going to be another problem with Souza. I mean, Souza not only can take you down and control you on the ground, but he can also tie you up, put you against the fence, grind you out there as well. It's just a lot of weapons in Souza's corner for this fight. So given that, I'm going to have to say that my pick is going to be Souza by decision, though I wouldn't be surprised that he gets a submission, maybe an arm lock. All right, the next fight is Carla Esparza versus Michelle Waterson. I'm a little biased in this fight because I really like Michelle a lot. She's a friend and she's been on the podcast multiple times, but I'm going to take that away from this prediction. Esparza's coming in as the odds favorite. I think Michelle Waterson is the fan favorite. I think there's ways to see. I can see either fighter winning. Esparza is going to try to get the fight to the ground, but then Michelle Waterson's got very good takedown defense. She's got no quit in her. Neither one of these girls have any quit in them. They can fight the entire time and show no signs of giving up and stopping. So that's what's going to make this fight exciting. It's going to be who can put that together the best. Esparza is going to try and get her down, control her on the ground. Michelle's going to try and defend the takedown and stay on the feet and just outfight her. Michelle's coming off of a loss to Joanna. That was obviously a hard-fought fight. But before that, she had a 3-fight win streak, big wins, and I think she had a lot of momentum. I don't think she's the type that's going to get broken by that last fight. I think she's going to come out to try to prove a point, get back on top. So I think she's going to be fine there. Esparza's, I think she's coming off of a 2-fight win streak, so she's got momentum. Again, I mean, I can understand that the odds have Esparza as winning, but I do truly feel, all biasness aside, I do truly feel that Michelle's gonna put this together. She's got a lot of heart. She moves well. She never stops throwing, and I'm just gonna have to go with the underdog in this one and pick Michelle Waterson. Probably decision. All right, so next we've got Fabricio Werdum versus Aleksei Oleinik. Werdum is the favorite coming into this fight, and rightfully so. He is. This to me is one of the most one-sided fights on the card due to the style of the fight. Aleksei is a chest-to-chest grappler. He's going to try and manhandle you, and he's just not going to be able to do it to arguably one of the greatest grapplers in the entire division in Werdum. I mean, we've seen him out-grapple everybody, and then nobody out-grapple Werdum. So I don't see how Aleksei's going to do it. And then you take into consideration that Werdum also has the striking. He's got good strikes as well. He can put them together. We saw Aleksei drop wins to Overeem and Harris. I think Werdum's going to take some lessons from that and see where he's open and land those big strikes. Werdum is coming off of a decent layoff from the testing thing. And his last fight was a loss to Volkov. So I think that will, obviously have some effect on this fight, considering that he's had some time off. His last fight is a loss. Is it enough to overcome his ability to beat Aleksei? No, I think he's can clearly win this fight, even, not even close to 100%. So my pick is going to be Werdum, and I'm going to pick Werdum via KO or TKO. All right, so the next fight we have Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone. It's amazing to me that Donald Cerrone's fighting again. He's got so many fights, and I want to say, just for the record, before I give this breakdown and this prediction, Cerrone is one of my favorite fighters ever. I love the guy. I think age and the amount of fights he's had is going to play a factor in this fight. I think it is also interesting to note that this is a rematch, the 7-year-old rematch between Pettis and Cerrone, where Pettis got a win. So, you can sit there and say back in their prime or back in, 7 years ago, what happened? Pettis won that fight by KO. But since then, Cerrone has had some big wins. He's had a lot of fights, but he's also taken a lot of damage. He's a fighter to the core. That's what I love about him. He goes in there and he fights everyone. He's coming off a 3-fight skid right now. But those 3 fights are Conor, Justin, and Ferguson. You can't get better fights than that. And I think that's the problem. He fights such good competition, and he fights so often that it takes a toll. And you can't assume that it's not going to take a toll. Pettis, 34 years old. He's younger, not only in age, but just in fight experience. Pettis has got like 32 fights compared to 50, I think Cerrone's got. So, when you consider that, just in fight, fights take age off of you. Trust me, I haven't even had crazy hard fights in my career as far as that many detrimental, dangerous fights where we just slugfest for or had a slugfest for the entire fight. I was like a live by the sword, die by the sword type of guy. But, I've had a little over 20 fights, and I definitely think that took some years off my life, especially from the training. So it's hard to not assume that 50 fights with Cerrone, that wouldn't be the same thing, especially coming off those last knockouts and fights. Again, my heart's with Cerrone as far as I love the guy. I don't want to see him get knocked out in this fight. I don't want to see him get beat up. I know him and Pettis, previously barn burner fight, for sure. And a close fight that could go either way multiple times throughout their careers. I think at this time, it's going to be a tough one. I think Pettis' key to victory here is going to be fighting southpaw, going for the body, and then setting up those big strikes. And for Cerrone, he's going to have to just stay away from that and just outfight Pettis. Just plain and simple, just outfight him and do his thing. Can he do that without getting caught with the big strike? How much has his chin changed from these knockouts that he's had? Pettis has lost by KO 2 times in his entire career. Cerrone's lost by KO 7 times. And again, the 50 fights, he's taken damage as well. So for this reason, I'm going to have to make my pick for Pettis by TKO or KO, though I hate seeing it. Not anything against Pettis. I love Pettis too. I think Pettis is a great fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters as well. I don't want to see Cerrone take another knockout. I think he's done so much. He's done enough. He's a legend of the sport. But I have to be honest here, and I definitely see in this fight, unless Cerrone can pull something major off, Pettis taking it. All right, moving on to the main card, we have Greg Hardy versus Yorgan de Castro. Greg Hardy coming in as the favorite, rightfully so. He's done quite well. He is coming off a loss to Volkov. That was his big test. His big move up, and he lost. How is he going to handle that? We're going to have to find out. Maybe it builds his confidence in some way that he took on tougher competition. Maybe there are things that he took from that fight that he did better at that he may have questioned before, or maybe it has the opposite effect. Maybe it made him more insecure about certain things. So we'll see how he comes back. I think it's not a crazy high level test against Castro. Castro is 6-0 with 5 KOs. He's a KO fighter. Greg knows this though. He knows he just has to avoid those big punches, and he's 6-0 as a pro. I believe he's lost as an amateur. So it's not like he's completely undefeated. And Greg Hardy is going to be Castro's kind of big test. He's going to be his Volkov kind of in this situation. So I think it's going to be a fight where it could be very exciting in the first couple minutes, a big knockout. I think it could be a fight where the first fighter who gets tired loses, as with almost every fight. I just bring that up in this fight because I have a hunch that this fight could be one of those fights where the fighters do get tired. And I think if that's the case, if they do get tired together and can't land that knockout punch, it could turn into a snooze fight and be one of the worst fights on the card. So it has the potential to be knockout of the night, and it has the potential to be one of the worst fights on the card, depending on who can land, if they can land, whose cardio is better and can hold up longer to get that big strike. So all that being said, my pick's going to be with Greg Hardy. I'm going to go with Greg Hardy for a TKO and knockout or a TKO. All right, so for the next fight, we have Calvin Kattar versus Jeremy Stephens. Kattar coming in as the favorite. He's coming off a loss to Zabit. He had a couple wins before that. Stephens is 3 losses in his last 3 fights, but they were to amazing competition in Yair, Aldo, and Zabit. Stephens is someone I just can't count out. It's not that I'm biased. It's just that I've bet against Stephens so many times, and he's impressed me and came back and got the win. And I just have a feeling he's going to be able to do it in this fight. I think Stephens' key to victory here is going to be using leg kicks to set up some of his explosive strikes. I think Kattar is hittable. I think Stephens can get in and hit him. And I think that's where this fight might go. I think he might be susceptible to getting hit. Stephens is going to find that opening and land it. It's a crazy good striking fight. I mean, it's going to be an exciting fight. I think this is going to be one of the more exciting fights on the card. I'm going to have to just say my pick is for Jeremy Stephens. I'm going to go with the underdog on this one, and I'm going to say by TKO or KO. All right, so the next fight is Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And, of course, Ngannou is the favorite for very, very good reason. He is one of the most powerful hitters in the entire planet, like on Earth, not just in this division, not just in this sport, just in general. He's coming off 3 wins: Blades, Velasquez, Dos Santos. I don't think you can put together 3 wins in this division better than that. This is going to be a very, very tough fight for Jairzinho to win. Jairzinho is 10-0, 9 KOs. He knocked out Overeem and Arlovsky. If you remember that cut from Arlovsky's lip, Overeem, that huge cut on Overeem's lip that was done by Jairzinho. I just don't think Arlovsky and Overeem are to the same standards as the people that Ngannou's knocked out and beaten in Blades, Velasquez, and Dos Santos. And not just because they're powerful hitters. Velasquez and Dos Santos are also very technical strikers, and they move very well for heavyweights. And he's found ways to beat all of them. Jairzinho has kicks. He possibly can mix it up a little bit with some kicks, which again make him susceptible to getting hit by Ngannou. He has combinations. Again, can maybe I don't know, maybe can confuse or distract Ngannou a little bit and set up a big strike to land. But I don't see it happening. I think the fun fact about this fight, considering that it is a KO fight and the winner, I say, is very, very, very likely to win by KO. A fun fact is that neither one of these fighters have been KO'd before. So that is interesting and makes this fight more exciting, because we're probably going to see someone get KO'd for the very first time in this fight. It's going to be a very exciting fight. I think there's no way I can't pick Ngannou by a KO, TKO. So that is going to be my final pick in this fight. All right, moving on, we got Henry Cejudo versus Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz's big comeback after 4 years. So this is going to be an interesting fight. This is one of the most interesting fights to me. You got Henry Cejudo, who is coming off of a 5-fight win streak, including Pettis, Johnson, Dillashaw, Moraes. It's an incredible win streak. And he's an incredible fighter. I mean, this guy he's got it all. I mean, he looks absolutely vicious. His last fight against Moraes, I mean, he looked incredible. But you're talking about another guy in Dominick Cruz, who is arguably the GOAT. I mean, the absolute GOAT. I mean, 22-2, you know, his last fight, I guess the downside being his last fight was to Cody Garbrandt, and he did get dominated quite badly. And then he had a 4-year layoff after that. Those are the two big factors in this fight that are going to play in my decision. Before the fight with Cody Garbrandt, he was on a 13-fight win streak, and it was just a who's who of the division. I mean, I could sit here and name names for days. That's why, you know, he was the GOAT. He was the greatest. Can he come back after 4 years and after a embarrassing loss to Cody Garbrandt, which was completely dominant, it wasn't a fluke, and put it together and fight how he fought in his prime against Henry? That's the big question. And I don't know. It's tough to think that he can. It's tough to think in his first fight back that he can take on this level of competition. I think if he had a tune-up fight, he could put a hell of a fight up against Henry. But I think in this situation, it's tough to get thrown back in there with a guy like Henry. I mean, Henry's got momentum. Now, Henry has had time off as well. He's had an injury, so there is a little issue there. I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal for him having less time off. I think it was a year and a shoulder injury. I don't think that's going to play as big of a role, considering he's been so active in the last 4 years that Dominick Cruz hasn't been. Both wrestlers, Cruz just a way more experienced and better striker overall. I would say if this fight was in their prime, both were active, I would definitely pick Dominick Cruz. I would pick Dominick Cruz if that was the case. However, that is not the case. We are where we are now, and because of that, I'm gonna have to go with Henry Cejudo, and I'm gonna say by decision. So I think he's going to get the decision win. I do think Dominick's going to be impressive in this fight, and I think this could still reestablish him back in the division and back in the game. I think he should have had a little bit easier of a fight coming in, and then taking a fight like Henry. I think that would have set up a bigger fight, a more competitive fight. But again, Dominick could completely shock me and shock everyone. So, I mean, hats off to you, Dominick, if you can come out there and be your old self and dominate, because I'm going to tell you, when you were doing it better than anyone and better than anyone ever has. So, you know, hats off to Dominick, much respect. I think I will not definitely be surprised if he pulls it off, but I'm going to have to stay with Henry for the win decision. All right, moving on to the main event, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. Tony Ferguson coming in as the favorite. Rightfully so. I mean, the guy's on a 12-fight win streak. He's one of the best in the division. Arguably, a lot of people think he is the best. You know, he hasn't beat Khabib. I don't think he could beat Khabib. I'm biased. I'm teammates with Khabib, but also I don't think stylistically he can beat him. But there's a lot of people that think he could beat him. And so there's a lot of people that think that this is the one of the greatest fighters, not one of, but maybe the greatest fighter in the division, fighting another fighter in Justin Gaethje, who is coming off of a 3-fight win streak. but has a couple losses before that. So in a normal situation, you'd be like, okay, this is going to be an easy fight for Ferguson. You know, he's fighting a guy that's 3-5 or 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but it's Justin Gaethje, and that changes everything. And I'll say that Justin Gaethje is just that type of fighter that can put up a fight against anybody, and you're not surprised if he does pull it off. He has the style to beat the best. I think he's one of that, just going to a different fight, but I think he's one of the hardest tests for Khabib, to be honest, Justin Gaethje, because of his striking. So, you know, he comes on strong, he throws hard, he's not afraid to get hit. You know, all these things factor into making great fights and giving him big wins, which has happened over and over again. I think he's going to bring hell for those first couple rounds. I think he's going to come very, very strong. And I think Ferguson knows that. Ferguson's got one of the best IQs for fighting out there. I mean, he's a very smart fighter. I think he knows Justin's coming strong. I think he knows that he can beat Justin if he weathers the storm any way he wants. I think Justin knows that Ferguson can beat him after he weathers the storm any way he wants. So that furthers my my prediction that he's going to come really strong, because I think Justin knows he has to win in those first few minutes, those first couple rounds. Ferguson just has too many weapons, though. I mean, he 12 fight win streak. He's got momentum. He's smart. He can fight from anywhere. The fact that he knows how Justin fights, and Justin is not going to mix it up because he can't. I mean, Justin can only win one way, you know. I mean, he technically, in my opinion, he can win one way. So he can't really throw a wrench and flip the script on this and change it up and trick Ferguson. I mean, he's pretty much got to come out and come straight for him and get that knockout. Interesting to note, Gaethje has been knocked out. Even though he's knocked out 18 other people. Tony's knocked out 12 people, but Tony's never been knocked out. So when you look at it like that, now we're having to say that Justin's going to have to come out there and do something that's never been done to arguably one of the best fighters in the world, who's on a 12-fight win streak and has multiple weapons and a gas tank and mental fortitude that's unmatchable next to Khabib. Yeah, I just don't see how he's going to be able to do it unless he lands that big strike. Now, I can see him putting Ferguson down. I can see a knockdown. I wouldn't be surprised if he does catch him early, because I think he's going to be throwing from all different angles and different directions, and it is likely that he could catch him and knock him down. I don't see Ferguson getting knocked out with one punch, like a one-punch knockout, or even a one-punch follow-up knockout. I don't see that happening. So I think if he does get knocked down, he'll recover and get back in the fight. So yeah, for this reason, I'm going to have to go with Tony Ferguson. I'm going to go Ferguson by KO or TKO. I think probably a stoppage is what I'm picturing in this fight. But I'm excited for it. I love Justin Gaethje. I love Ferguson. I think this is an absolute amazing fight, amazing main event, and I think it's going to be a win for the fans. So, again, my pick is for Ferguson, but definitely the fans are going to win this one. All right, so that's my breakdown, my thoughts, my picks for UFC 249, main prelims, main fight card. It's going to be an exciting fight. It's crazy, man. This is going to be one of the only live sporting events on TV at this time. So I think there's going to be a lot of people watching. They couldn't have put a better card together for it. Hats off to the UFC. Hats off to Dana for doing that. And just to refresh you with my picks for this card is Jacare, Waterson, Werdum, Pettis, Hardy, Stevens, Ngannou, Cejudo, and Ferguson. Those are my picks. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you're listening on the audio platforms. I'm going to try to be breaking down more of these fights coming up. I think we got some other good ones coming up here soon. We got some good podcasts coming up as well. Quarantine series, check them out if you haven't seen them already, to see what some of your favorite fighters and fight personalities are doing during quarantine, what they think of the virus and this entire situation that we're facing right now globally. We got a couple really big guests coming up next in the quarantine series, and then a couple regular podcasts as well with good guests. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.